Warning. The Banzuke review episode you're about to watch contains extreme amounts of Ryan gloating content that may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Also, congratulations, Ryan!
Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown,
The unofficial sumo podcast.
for official sumo fans. Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown. This is Ryan.
This is Jake.
And this is our Banzuke recap for the Kyushu Basho. This Banzuke played out pretty much how I expected it to. A couple of minor differences from my prediction, but we're going to say not as bad as my last couple, where we had quite a few Rikishi off by far too many spaces for my prediction to the actual result. If you are watching on YouTube, we're going to try to do a better job of getting the YouTube video uploaded in a timely manner. Also, like, comment,
I'm going to blame
subscribe.
Mac for I'm blaming Mac for me not telling him that it was ready for him to edit.
Yes, I've already headed off that problem. Mac already knows we're recording tonight and to look for the video file tomorrow. But yeah, so if you're watching on YouTube, we've got our visual representation. On the left-hand side, we have the Kyushu prediction, my prediction, where Rikishi with green colors are Rikishi that received a promotion, and Rikishi in red are Rikishi that received a demotion. And then as we go throughout the Banzuke, revealing who is at each rank, on the right-hand side, Jake will be showing the results of who actually ended up where if there is a white background, that means it is a exact perfect prediction on my spot, correct numerical rank, correct side of the Banzuke. And then if there is a green color in the background of the Rikishi's name, it means they're ranked slightly higher than I had predicted them to. And if there's a red color, it means they are ranked slightly lower than I predicted them to.
Nothing else exciting for this episode, right?
Not at all. No.
No.
Fairly standard procedure.
Are you going to get to the headline here or what?
I mean, if you're just gonna throw it out there,
We can't not. I mean, you're not going to go through the whole episode and hide it.
I mean, I'm not gonna announce it because I am so humble and I just don't believe in throwing praise on myself. So really, I feel like if somebody's gonna say it, it shouldn't come from me.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. And instead of just telling you, I'd like you to check the top drawer of the filing cabinet next to your desk.
What? Oh my God. Oh, you put my wife up to, oh, this is beautiful. It is a trophy with a goat. And right there, it says Best Banzuke Guy, Ryan Smithman. That's beautiful. So yes, I get this trophy not for winning this Guess the Banzuke prediction, because I didn't. I finished it. But due to the accumulation of my last year's worth of efforts of Banzuke predictions, on the Guess the Banzuke game, I am the #1 overall predictor. And I'm going to say, in a time when there are more people playing Guess the Banzuke, there are more resources available to people who are playing Guess the Banzuke, such as our podcast. I believe Sumo Spiffy on YouTube goes through the Banzukes, and there's Leonard on the Tachi blog gives information for the Banzukes. There's a lot of resources that there didn't used to be for predicting the Banzuke. And at a time when people are more informed, there's more people doing this. The hardest time to be #1, who is there but your most humble Best Banzuke guy, me, Ryan of Grand Sumo Breakdown.
I was trying so hard to think of something to put on there, and I was like, you know what? Got to go with my first thought.
The only other option was Banzuke Wizard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that veers too near to KKK title territory. So I was like, you know what?
Fair.
Best Banzuke guy.
I like it. I take it. And I will try to hold on to that trophy for as long as possible. And hopefully Tim Sumo doesn't surpass me, as he is #2 in the rankings. I don't want to have to mail him that trophy.
Yeah, I'm sure he will appreciate a trophy that says best Banzuke guy.
I'll put a piece of tape over it, write his name on it if that were to ever come to happen. I'm gonna do everything in my power to not let it happen.
Yep, his full name, Timothy James Sumo.
Yes. All right, so let's dive into the Banzuke prediction. Obviously, I did fairly well overall on this one, but let's find out how well I did. So at the top, of course, Terunofuji is going to be your sole Yokozuna on the east side, no Yokozuna on the west side. Takakeisha is looking to change that, but we've got to wait until Kyushu to see if he will. At Ozeki, really not a whole lot to note on the Ozeki ranking coming into the Basho as far as rankings are concerned. The only movement is Takakeisho and Kirishima switching sides of the Ozeki 1 rank to set the order of the Ozeki in the order of most wins to least wins. So that was Takakeisho with 11, Kirishima with 9, and Hoshoryu at Ozeki 1 West with 8 wins. Then we'll move to the Sekiwake rank, where there's no movement whatsoever from the Akibasho. They all stayed in the same spots, just as predicted, because nobody, Daisho had the most amount of wins with 10, and he was already the top ranked Sekiwake, and then Wakamoto Haru and Koto no Waka both had 9 wins, so they just stayed where they were respectively. So the first real excitement comes at the Komosubi rank, as we had Nishikigi and Tobizaru, who had losing records from this rank in the previous Basho. They both do fall from the Komosubi rank, and they are replaced by the pair of Rikishi, Abi at Komosubi East and Hokuto Fuji at Komosubi West. So Abi is rising up 2 ranks from Maegashira 2 back up to the Komosubi rank, which he's been on and off ever since his return from suspension. He had a 9-6 record in the last Basho. And we have Hokuto Fuji re-entering the Sanyaku ranks for the first time in 3.5 years to the Komosubi West. Yeah, it's been a long... It doesn't feel like it's been that long, but yeah, since early 2020 was the last time Hokuto Fuji was a Komosubi. And so he has been Komosubi 3 previous times in his career, but he has failed to achieve a winning record in any of those 3 occurrences. And each of those Sanyaku appearances was a one and done where he dropped immediately out. So we'll see if Hokuto Fuji can make it stick. He's been doing pretty well the past couple of Basho, so I think this is as good of a chance of any for him to make it a multiple Basho stint in the Sanyaku ranks. So we'll move down to the top Maegashira spot, which will be occupied by Asanoyama, who is only rising 1 rank after his 9-6 record from Maegashira 2. A bit of an unlucky draw for him here, as he deserved to be ranked higher than Hokuto Fuji, but he did end up behind him just outside of Sanyaku ranks, just based on the fact of how the Maegashira 1 rank works. If you have a winning record, you're pretty much guaranteed Sanyaku. So it just kind of sucks for Asanoyama that he's the guy getting snubbed there. And because he's getting snubbed for the Komosubi rank and his small promotion of only 1 rank after a 9-6 record, gonna make Asanoyama our first snub of the Banzuke candidates on this Basho.
Yeah, because like that, he deserves to be up a little bit higher. It's a bit of a logjam. But like that definitely 9-6 for Maegashira 2 is definitely not enough to force open an extra Komosubi slot. So, oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, get that just a little bit in frame. Get the goat.
Yep. That's about as good as I can do with my desk setup.
there were a lot of options to put on top that could have been like more like legitimately cool and stuff like that. But since there wasn't a straight up sumo wrestler, I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's just do a goat.
Yeah, it explains what I am perfectly in the Banzuke community. So, no,
also,
I think you nailed it.
Cheaper than you would expect. Much more practical for a joke than I would have guessed.
No, that's awesome. All right, we'll move on to the Maegashira 1 West. Right? No, I truly appreciate it. That is fantastic. I'm going to hold on to that and display it forever.
The only problem with it is that instead of like putting it somewhere that it will be visible on podcasts, you're going to put it in front of you so that you can look at it all the time.
Exactly. Yeah, there we go. Right there, right in front of my screen, distorting what I'm looking at. But hey, I've got the goat
less
there.
Important. Yep.
That's right. It is much less important than that trophy right there.
Oh man. All right, who's next?
Next at Maegashira 1 West is Ura, who is rising up 3 ranks after his 9-6 record from Maegashira 4. And I'm actually going to make him a Luck of the Banzuke candidate just for this Banzuke, due to the fact that there really wasn't a whole lot of luck involved on this Banzuke. It was just a whole lot of snubs for people. So I kind of have to reach to find some candidates. And so the reason I'm making Ura a Luck of the Banzuke candidate is because we're in a log-jammed joy. We just saw Asanoyama only got 1 rank promotion after a 9-6. And so for Ura to be able to get his full 3 rank promotion that you would expect for a 9-6 record in such a log-jammed joy area, I consider that a little bit lucky. So you know what? Why not? Let's give him a Luck of the Banzuke candidacy.
Yeah, he caught up to Asanoyama, who got the same record from 2 ranks higher, and now they're the same.
Yeah, and then
that's fair.
We saw Asanoyama only get a 1 rank promotion for a 9-6 record, and that's not the last time we're going to see that kind of promotion for somebody with a 9-6 record. So for Ura to get that full 3 rank promotion with compared to other Rikishi with that same record, a little bit lucky.
Sure.
Moving on to Maegashira 2. It's a fairly standard ranking here. We have Shodai rising up 1 rank to Maegashira 2 East after an 8-7 record from Maegashira 3, and Meisei dropping down 1 rank to Maegashira 2 West after a 7-8 record from Maegashira 1. No real drama going on here. So Maegashira 3, this is the first rank where I kind of really had any sort of doubt on what I predicted would be correct. Felt pretty damn solid on everything above this point. But we had Takayasu was one of our candidates for the spot, and he deserved to be higher ranked than Tobizaru, who was a Rikishi dropping out of the Sanyaku ranks, who in the past we've seen get preferential treatment. But luckily for me, there was some previous, very eerily similar previous data for these 2 Rikishi at this exact rank. And it played out exactly how it played out the last time, where Takayasu, who deserved to be ahead of Tobizaru, ended up ahead of Tobizaru indeed, even though he was outside of the Joy and Tobizaru was within the Sanyaku ranks. Takayasu rises up 4 ranks to Maegashira 3 East after his 10-5 record from Maegashira 7, and then Tobizaru drops 3 ranks to Maegashira 3 West after his 6-9 record from Komusubi. So actually, I'm a little shocked that it played out this way, mostly because the Banzuke committee was consistent in how they handled this situation from one basho to the next.
Fair enough. I'm shocked that I got it right.
Yeah. Because usually if I'm doing something like, well, this is how it was handled like one time in the past, then they'll just reverse it for no damn reason. So
yeah,
happy,
and then they'll go back to precedent next time. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Then we get to Maegashira 4 East, where, as expected, Gonoyama got the shaft a little bit here, and he is a snub of the Banzuke candidate. He only got a 1 rank promotion after a 9-6 record from Maegashira 5 to land at Maegashira 4 East. He deserved to be ranked ahead of Tobizaru definitively. If you go by tiebreaker scenarios, you could argue he deserved to be ahead of Shodai and Meisei as well. But those guys had Joy Bias playing on their side. So also a snub just because like we mentioned with Ura, he was able to get his full 3 rank promotion with the same record, and Gonoyama only got a 1 rank promotion. So it really just, for me, drives home the theory that it's the situation that dictates how a Rikishi is treated on the Banzuke, and the Banzuke committee doesn't care about treating Rikishi fairly, 1, in comparison to other Rikishi kind of in their range of the Banzuke, and 2, based on other Rikishi who had similar records. It's really, they don't care if you're treated fairly in comparison to other people. It's just what the situation calls for and dictates.
Sure.
So important note for Gonoyama, this is a career high ranking for him at Maegashira 4, and he has yet to have a losing record in the top division. Then we get to Maegashira 4 West, and we get to my first miss on this Banzuke, and I'm mad because it was something that I had strongly considered pulling the trigger on. This is Nishikigi landing at Maegashira 4 West, dropping 4 ranks from Komusubi after a 5-10 record. In my prediction, I had Onosho landing at this spot instead. So kind of the more I dwell on this ranking, the more confusing this is to me. And on the surface, it makes complete sense. A dropping Sanyaku Rikshi landing ahead of a rising non-Joy Rikshi that deserved to be ahead of them, but because of Sanyaku bias, the dropping Sanyaku Rikshi went ahead of them. That's kind of par for the course. We know that happens. But what makes it more confusing to me is in the context of Takayasu and Tobizaru. So Takayasu was further outside of the Joy than Onosho was. Takayasu was Maegashira 7, Onosho was Maegashira 6, and Takayasu only deserved to be 1 rank ahead of Tobizaru, while Onosho deserved to be 2 ranks ahead of Nishikigi. Yet it was Takayasu who was ranked ahead of the dropping Sanyaku Rikshi and not Onosho. So my only theory that I have, other than Banzuke committee gonna Banzuke committee, is that since Takayasu was involved in the Yusho race, he fought against 4 Sanyaku Rikshi compared to Onosho's 2 Sanyaku Rikshi. Maybe that was enough to vault him over Tobizaru, whereas Onosho's resume of the Basho wasn't good enough to vault him over a dropping Sanyaku Rikshi. But due to all of this contradiction that went in Nishikigi's favor, I have loosely made Nishikigi a luck of the Banzuke candidate as well.
Sure.
As any and all luck of the Banzuke candidates will be very loosely nominated.
Yeah. They'll all be a bit of a stretch, won't they?
Yep. So Onosho does land just 1/2 rank lower than I expected he would at Maegashira 5 East, and I'm going to be making him a snub of the Banzuke candidate, as well as, once again, only rising 1 rank to Maegashira 5 East after a 9-6 record for Maegashira 6, and being jumped over by Nishikigi for that Maegashira 4 West spot when he deserved to be 2 ranks higher than Nishikigi. Then at Maegashira 5 West, we have Midori Fuji rising 4 ranks after a 10-5 record from Maegashira 9. No real drama going on there. But then we get to Maegashira 6, where I actually missed the next 3 Rikshi, and I'm once again a little mad because it's another scenario that I talked about on the previews. Like, I strongly considered that this might happen. I'm not quite pulling the trigger on it, but if it does happen, I can at least on the recap episode point to it and said, see, I thought it might. And so see, I thought this might happen. But it is Shonan Umi landing at Maegashira 6 East, and Takanosho landing at Maegashira 6 West. In my prediction, I had Hokuseiho and Shonan Umi landing at Maegashira 6, with Takanosho landing at Maegashira 7. Might as well, Maegashira 7 East is Hokuseiho. So according to basic Banzuke math, how I predicted it is how they all should have played out. Shonan Umi and Hokuseiho deserve to be Maegashira 6. Takanosho deserved to be Maegashira 7.
But look at this guy. He gets first place in the rankings one time, and he's like, it should have been like this, and they got it wrong when they made the Banzuke.
No. I said based on the Banzuke math, this is like, that is how they should have ended up before you take any sort of bias into play.
Listen, if these jokers were any good at their job,
I mean, you're not wrong.
If they were number 1 in the world at Guess the Banzuke, here's what they should have done.
Exactly. But no, so that's where they should have ended up before any sort of joy bias would come into play. But Takanosho was in the joy, and I recognize that he could have received some joy bias to go ahead of both Hokuseiho or Shonan Umi, but I had done just enough mental gymnastics to convince myself it wouldn't happen. But as I mentioned, Takanosho did indeed receive the benefit of some joy bias while he landed at Maegashira 6 ahead of Hokuseiho. So Shonan Umi's dropping only 1 rank from Maegashira 5 after a 7-8 record, and Takanosho is dropping 2 ranks from Maegashira 4 after a 6-9 record. So I have my reasoning for why I think Takanosho went ahead of Hokuseiho here, and not Shonan Umi, since both of these guys were outside of the joy. Why would Takanosho not jump both of them instead of just Shonan Umi? So I believe it is the difference in rank between previous Maegashira 5 Shonan Umi and previous Maegashira 11 Hokuseiho. So kind of just visually looking at things, it wouldn't sit right if a Maegashira 4 Rikishi Takanosho with 9 losses ended up ahead of a Maegashira 5 Rikishi Shonan no Umi with 8 losses. Because typically what you see is if somebody is one rank ahead of another Rikishi but has like one more loss and they both have losing records, then the one who had one more loss and was ranked higher is going to be ranked behind the guy that had one fewer loss and was previously ranked lower, which is what happened here. Shonan no Umi had one less loss than Takanosho. So my thinking is, since they were so close to each other on the Banzuke, the rules kind of apply more strictly the closer you are to somebody on the Banzuke, like kind of in relation to them. So Takanosho, it wouldn't make sense for him to be still ranked ahead of Shonan no Umi when he was only one rank ahead of him. But you can get away with it more because Hokuseiho is Maegashira 11, and like visually, it and just kind of thinking about it, it's not as hard to imagine Takanosho being ahead of the guy that he was already 7 ranks ahead of. You know what I mean?
I think
it
that could
makes sense in my
theoretically be
head.
Articulated better, but I did get where you're going with it.
Very easily could be articulated better. My main hypothesis is that the closer you are in rank to somebody like Takanosho to Shonan no Umi, the more strictly the mathematical rules apply to you. And that could be just the difference of, well, he was only one rank ahead, like we've got to make sure things look right in the order, or it could just be schedule difference and they think, well, this guy didn't fight as hard of a schedule. But it does feel like closer you are in rank to somebody, the stricter the rules are followed in comparison with somebody else.
Fair enough. I feel like this is one of those that you're getting into the weeds far enough that it's probably just like a I guess put him down.
Yeah.
You know, like the way that like is it John Gunning who says that the prediction people in the West think about the Banzuke harder than the people who make it?
Yeah. And that's definitely exactly what I was doing, just trying to figure out like, well, why would Takanosho not go ahead of Shonan no Umi but ahead of Hokuseiho?
Yeah, I do think that
for
it's
me,
funny.
I need to find a reason that I can latch onto for the next prediction.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I can't have it be random nonsensical bias. Like I need it to have some sort of reason that I can point to so I can recreate it. I can't recreate random bullcrap.
And even if we're not recreating the reasoning for why they did it, if you clearly are predicting what they will do. Yeah. Even if the reasons aren't the same, you're still recognizing and trying to codify the patterns. And clearly it's working, but like it's yeah.
So like you said, sometimes I get a little too deep into there. So let's get beyond that jumbled mess and let's get to a little bit more easier to understand things as we get to the Maegashira 7 West rank and we get back on track with my perfect predictions and we can kind of breeze through these next few ranks. There's very little to discuss about how each Rikishi got here. There was a bunch of tiebreaker scenarios between a bunch of Rikishi that weren't in the Joy, so no bias played any part, and the tiebreakers worked out exactly how I predicted them to be, where East Side Rikishi would be ranked ahead of West Side Rikishi, and then after you passed that tiebreaker, it was just whoever had the most wins would be ranked ahead of the next guy. So at Maegashira 7 West, we have Keen Bozan rising 3 ranks after a 9-6 record from Maegashira 10. We have Endo rising 2 ranks following a similar 9-6 record from Maegashira 10. At Maegashira 8 West, we have Atami Fuji rising to a career high ranking after his 11-4 June Yusho from Maegashira 15. Then we have Miyogiryu rising 4 ranks from Maegashira 13 to Maegashira 9 East after a 10-5 record, and Mitakayumi rising 2 ranks to Maegashira 9 West after a 9-6 record from Maegashira 11. So at Maegashira 10 on the east side, we get to another snub of the Banzuke candidate in Ryuden. And he isn't a snub because I think the Banzuke mistreated him in any sort of way, but he is just a snub of circumstances. There's really 2 different kind of snubs that we consider. It's when I think the Banzuke committee treated somebody wrong, or sometimes you just you're just in a bad position, and what happened to you was inevitable. It was predictable, but it still sucks. And so that's what happened to Ryuden, as we discussed on the preview episode. I believe the Banzuke committee would like to avoid over demotions if at all possible, which they did on this Banzuke. Ryuden's the only Rikishi that got over demoted when there were plenty of chances to over demote somebody else, like when we were up in the Joy at Maegashira 2. Meisei went ahead of Gonoyama and Takayasu, who, if we followed typical tiebreaker rules, those two guys would have been ranked ahead of Meisei, and then Meisei would have been over demoted. Or Maegashira 3, Tobizaru going ahead of Gonoyama to avoid a over demotion for Tobizaru, but Gonoyama deserved to go ahead of Tobizaru based on the typical math. So they avoided those situations, but with Ryuden, it was inevitable. There were just too many Rikishi that deserved to go ahead of him, and so there's no avoiding dropping him 4 ranks to Maegashira 10 East after a 9-6 record from Maegashira 6.
Gotcha.
And then at Maegashira 10 on the west side, we have Kotoeko dropping 2 ranks to Maegashira 10 West after a 6-9 record from Maegashira 8. Sada Naomi rising 1 rank to Maegashira 11 East after an 8-7 record for Maegashira 12, and Hira Daumi dropping 3 ranks to Maegashira 11 West after a 6-9 record from Maegashira 8. Once again, another group of 3 guys that were all tied for deserving the same rank, and the tiebreaker rules played out exactly how we expected them to.
Sure.
So it's nice that seems to be fairly consistent, that the East versus West dominates, and then whoever has the most wins follows suit. The only exception we had was that one weird Banzuke where they seemed to rank people higher who had fought one like Sanyaku match.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only time I've seen them kind of go against these tiebreaker rules, but otherwise it's pretty consistent. So we get to Maegashira 12, where I have a couple of small misses at this rank. I just had each of these Rikishi on the wrong side. So Oho is dropping 5 ranks from Maegashira 7 to Maegashira 12 East after a 5-10 record. And then Tamawashi drops 9 ranks from Maegashira 3 to Maegashira 12 West after a 2-13 record. So I had thought that Tamawashi would benefit from just a little bit more joy bias than he ended up receiving. Like, as I said, I thought he would go ahead of Oho, who deserves to be 2 ranks higher than Tamawashi. So I'm not upset or anything that Oho ended up ahead of him. But ultimately, the only Rikishi that Tamawashi jumped in the rankings was Takada Fuji, who deserved to be 1 rank ahead of him.
I like that. You're like, I got this wrong because they were more fair than I expected them to be.
Yeah, exactly. And it's still me adjusting, because I feel like since this new year, since it's been Asakayama as the head of the Shinpan department putting the Banzukes together, I feel like they have been more fair with some of their biases. They're not giving away as much joy bias to some Rikishi, and the anti-Juryo bias isn't as harsh as it was under the previous regime of Isegahama. So I still feel like I'm adjusting to that a little bit, and it's still been a little different from Basho to Basho. Like last Basho, there's no joy bias given away whatsoever, and then the Basho right before that, freaking Nishiki Fuji went ahead of a Rikishi he deserved to be 3 ranks behind. So they're still figuring it out. They're still figuring it out. Like, I'm not the one.
They're still learning.
They're still learning. They're still in their first year. I've been doing this for a few years longer than Asakayama has.
What's funny is that you're not like wrong. Like, if it's something where the Banzuke is the part that's inconsistent in it, and the prediction community is what's being consistent and like having rules that they follow, you do kind of know better.
I agree, Jake. I should be the head of the Banzuke department.
You know what? Check
Absolutely
the next
right.
drawer of your cabinet. No, I'm kidding. There's only the one trophy.
I mean, this does say best Banzuke guy. That's pretty all-inclusive, meaning I'm better than anybody on the Banzuke committee.
Because it's only guys, as has been very firmly established in Sumo.
And it's not best Banzuke predictor. It's best Banzuke guy. So
You're right.
I think that that's all encompassing. It means I'm better than everybody, even the people coming up with the actual Banzukes.
That joke is legally binding.
Yep, absolutely. So we'll move down to Maegashira 13, where we have Takeda Fuji dropping 1 rank to Maegashira 13 East after a 7-8 record from Maegashira 12. And then at Maegashira 13 West, we have another one of our Banzuke rules that is holding true. And that rule is to not place any Juryo Rikishi on the Banzuke until all Makuuchi Rikishi with winning records have been placed. So at Maegashira 13 West, we have Tsurugisho, who deserved to be 2 ranks behind a couple of Juryo Rikishi, which typically means the Juryo Rikishi can be ranked ahead of him, but he had a winning record in the top division, so the Banzuke committee gave Tsurugisho what I'm fairly positive is the only over promotion for a Makuuchi Rikishi on this Banzuke, as he rises 3 ranks from Maegashira 15 after an 8-7 record to land at Maegashira 13 West. I apologize. That is a 2-rank promotion. Still an over promotion, but not a 3-rank over promotion.
Sure.
Because he was previously at Maegashira 16, not Maegashira 15. So it is a 3-rank promotion.
3-rank jump. So I guess that's 2 ranks higher than you would expect.
2 ranks higher than expected, and he's the only Makuuchi Rikishi that got even 1 rank higher than expected.
Gotcha.
Everybody's been landing fairly close to where they deserve to be, with the exception of like the Gonoyama no show getting only 1 rank. There's a little bit of logjam up there, but really it's been nothing like what we've seen most of this year with like the crazy under demotions and over promotions. I said, this is the only over promotion on the Banzuke. For a previous Makuuchi Rikishi, we're going to get to some with some Juryo promotees, but those don't feel like they count as much because they're not real people.
You know what? Fair.
Yeah. But because of that, Tsurugisho is a luck of the Banzuke candidate. So then we get to Maegashira 14, where, like I mentioned in the preview, we had a lot of Juryo Rikishi that deserved to be ranked and no Makuuchi Rikishi that deserved to be ranked until the Juryo 1. Like, the next Makuuchi Rikishi that deserved to be ranked was Juryo 1. So it was very bad at the bottom of the Banzuke. So placing these next few Juryo Rikishi was actually pretty easy. Didn't really have to do a whole lot of mental gymnastics to figure out how they were going to land. So we have Tomokaze landing at Maegashira 14 East, rising 6 ranks from Juryo 3 after an 11-4 record. This is going to be his second stint in the top division. And then we have Ichi Yamamoto returning to the top division for the 3rd time in his career at Maegashira 14 West after his Yusho winning 13-2 record from Juryo 7, rising a total of 10 ranks. At Maegashira 15 East, we have Tohakuryu, and this is going to be a sentence that's going to get a little old over these next few rankings, and that sentence is blank is at his career high rank and making his Makuuchi debut, because Tohakuryu rises 6 ranks to land at Maegashira 15 East after a 10-5 record from Juryo 4, and Tohakuryu is at his career high rank and making his Makuuchi debut. And then we get to my final series of missed predictions, starting with Chura no Umi, who rises 7 ranks to Maegashira 15 West after a 10-5 record from Juryo 5. Chura no Umi is at his career high rank and making his Makuuchi debut. So I had Chura no Umi ranked behind a pair of Rikishi that landed at Maegashira 16, at Maegashira 16 East Roga, and Maegashira 16 West Nishiki Fuji. So I've been playing around with the concept of a Juryo Joy over the past few basho, with the theory being that the top 3 or so ranks of Juryo would get better treatment than those below that. But at least on this Banzuke, it seems all Juryo Rikishi were treated fairly equally with no regard to any mythical joy bias that might exist. Because I had assumed that Juryo Rikishi Chura no Umi was tied with for a rank that he deserved, Roga, who was previously Juryo 1, I assumed Roga would get a small boost ahead of Chura no Umi due to being in this mythical Juryo joy. I'd also assumed that Chura no Umi would need to deserve to be ranked 2 spots ahead of any makuuchi rikishi in order to actually be placed ahead of that makuuchi rikishi, kind of like what we've seen in years past.
Sure.
But both of those assumptions proved to be wrong. And because of that, I'm going to make Chura no Umi another loosely nominated Luck of the Banzuke candidate.
Of course.
So at Maegashira 16 East, like I said, Roga rising 2 ranks from Juryo 1 to land at this spot. Roga is at his career high rank and making his makuuchi debut. And then
sketching on with me.
Then we have Nishiki Fuji dropping 3 ranks to Maegashira 16 West after a 5-10 record from Maegashira 13. Nishiki Fuji is not at his career high rank and is not making his makuuchi debut.
But it might be his last tournament in the top division if he doesn't do great.
Depends on how he does here.
Danger zone.
But then we get to Maegashira 17 East, the final ranking on this Banzuke. And for once, my gamble on putting a Juryo rikishi in over a makuuchi rikishi finally paid off as Kita Nowaka rises 2 ranks from Juryo 2 to Maegashira 17 East after an 8-7 record. He did just barely enough, or more, that Aoyama didn't do enough to stay in the top division, sending Aoyama down to Juryo for the first time since 2018 and only the second basho since 2011.
That 2018, that was 1 basho, and then he was right back. Mm-hmm. And other than that, it's been like 12 years.
It's crazy to me how long Aoyama has been a makuuchi mainstay. I mean, his makuuchi career is about double our time of watching sumo.
Yeah, we weren't even alive when he made his makuuchi debut.
Yeah, we were.
I'm not great.
Not even a twinkle in our parents' eyes at that point. Kita Nowaka is at his career high rank and will be making his makuuchi debut. And I'm going to be making him our final Luck of the Banzuke candidate, just for the fact that his record did not deserve promotion into the makuuchi division with an 8-7 record from Juryo 2. But because of the bottom of the makuuchi division was so bad, he made it up there anyways.
Yeah, it was less that he deserved promotion and that somebody deserved demotion bad enough to drag him up.
Yeah. And so based on the results of this basho and kind of the past few basho, might need to readjust my treatment of Juryo rikishi. So in this Banzuke, we had Roga, Chura no Umi, and Kita Nowaka all end up ahead of a makuuchi rikishi that they only deserve to be 1 rank ahead of. So as often discussed, my rule has always been 2 ranks ahead of a makuuchi rikishi to actually be placed ahead of that makuuchi rikishi. But it seems that slightly nicer treatment of Juryo rikishi has been fairly consistent for this new regime, as last basho, very similarly, Kageyaki was only deserving to be 1 rank ahead of Tsurugisho, and he ended up ranked ahead of Tsurugisho on the Banzuke. So it's been consistent for more than 1 Banzuke, so I think it might be something that I kind of readjust to on my next prediction, only for them to go back to being absolute dicks to Juryo rikishi.
Yep.
But I try to make it a rule of not adjusting to 1 basho blips.
Yeah.
I want to see it happen multiple times, because there are just weird things that the Banzuke committee latches onto for 1 basho for whatever reason, and then they drop it the next one. So this one seems like it's sticking a bit more. So we had 6 rikishi from coming up from Juryo replacing makuuchi rikishi. 4 of them are going to be making their makuuchi debut. I believe I saw somewhere that that's the most rikishi making their makuuchi debut since 2013. So have quite a new fresh crop coming in. But we've got to replace 6 makuuchi rikishi that are going down to Juryo, and it pains me to say it. The first one is Haku Oho, but then it's Aoyama, Koto Shoho, Chiyoshoma, Kageyaki, and Dai Shoho. So not a lot of names we're going to miss, with the exception of Haku Oho there. So
speak for yourself.
Okay, who are you gonna miss out of those 6 besides
I don't know.
Hakuo?
I guess Aoyama is the only one that's even a kind of like the other 4 are Daishoho and Kodo Shoho. I don't know very well yet. Shioshoma and Kageyaki are kind of guys that are fun to hate on, So like, I'm gonna miss having them there to hate on a little bit, but I don't know. I'm definitely a fan of New Blood and these 4 guys that I haven't seen before in any significant amount. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do.
Yeah, we'll get more into it on the Basho preview episode, but I'm only really excited about 2 of them. But we'll get into why later. No, I am curious about Kageyaki at this point because he has been wildly yo-yoing back and forth quite a bit recently. So I'm trying to see how many times he's dropped down to Juryo. So made his Makuuchi debut here in 2016, dropped down immediately. So that's 1 drop down. Then he managed to stick around from July of 2016 to November 2021 before he dropped down to Juryo for the second time, then a 3rd time, then a 4th time. This is the 5th time he's dropped down to Juryo, and like the 4th time in the past 2 years.
So yeah, it really has just been the last 2 years or so that he's been yo-yoing.
Yeah.
I guess I kind of forgot that he was a mainstay for the first 2/3 of GSB's career so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've thoroughly enjoyed his yo-yoing ever since. About half the time I don't have to deal with him in the top division.
Yeah, I just want Aqua back in the top division to watch some more failed Kakenage attempts.
Well, he's at Juryo 10, so
fingers crossed he can do it this time.
So let's dive deeper and see how did I do on the Banzuke prediction. I got a total of 32 bullseyes out of a possible 42, so 76% of the Rikishi I placed at the exact correct rank. My previous best on a prediction was 79%, so it would have been only 1 more Rikishi placed at the exact right ranking. And then I had an additional 4 Rikishi at the correct rank, but on the wrong side, much like Oho and Tamawashi. So I had 36 total Rikishi at the correct rank, which is 86%. My previous best was 88%. So once again, just 1 off of my best ever pace for a Banzuke prediction. And 37 at the correct rank was the best guess in Guess the Banzuke.
Yeah. Okay.
So the results of this Basho and my overall standings. This Basho ranked 5th out of a 194 Rikishi. That's a 13-2 equivalent. I'm going to say coming off of my last Basho where I was ranked 5th overall and had 14-1, and then 13-2 this time. I can't say that I would be Yokozuna level Guess the Banzuke quite yet. I've got to get that Yusho under my belt, but I think I'm in a Kisei no Sato situation where give me that 1 Yusho and then we're just going to put you up there.
I was going to say Takayasu, you've never gotten the Yusho, but you've just through attrition made your way to the best overall for the year.
Yeah. So as we mentioned, as the trophy says, best Banzuke guy, I am now ranked number 1 overall in Guess the Banzuke. And you know what? It's only gonna my score is only gonna climb higher, because if we look at this past year, so how Guess the Banzuke scoring works is it's like a rolling average of your last year's worth of predictions. So your last 6 predictions. This Basho I finished 5th. Last Basho I finished 5th. In Nagoya, 14th. Natsu, 3rd. Haru, 14th. So that's 5 consecutive top 14 performances. And then Hatsu of last year, I was 62nd overall. And
and that one's going to drop off next time.
My rolling average is going to drop off that 62. And if we can keep up my pace of top 14 finishes, my rolling average is only going to get that much higher.
If you manage to just not crap the bed this next one, you'll be very likely untouchable for at least 1 more section here.
Yeah, and that Hatsu one, the reason I finished 62nd is the one where it was like the ultimate log jam to end all log jams, and I incorrectly predicted the number of Sanyaku Rikishi, which throws off the entirety of the rest of your prediction.
Yeah, because for at least in Guess the Banzuke rules, if it's the wrong rank, even if you had everybody in the perfect order, if you called a guy a Komusubi when he should have been a Maegashira 1, yeah, half those guys are now wrong.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
That's
I'm with
what
you
had
now.
happened there. And so looking at just like how far off I was in guessing the Rikishi in the correct order that they would be in, ignoring rank, I missed by 12 overall spots. So like Hokuseiho, I missed by a full rank. So I missed him by 2 spots in the overall order. So that cumulative score was only 12 for this Basho, which ties my previous best, which I had achieved 2 times before. So by one metric, this is my most accurate Banzuke, tied for my most accurate Banzuke prediction that I've had. And my worst guess on this Banzuke is 2 people, Choda Naomi and Hokuseiho, who I missed by 2 spots in the overall order or just 1 numerical rank, which is much better than when I had missed somebody by 6 spots in the order the past couple of Basho.
You've never had a Banzuke where you've gotten everybody within 1. But
yeah,
that's
that's
the dream. But like for this one, if it weren't for those 2 guys, but yeah, this ties your best by that metric as well.
Yeah. So my two goals I have left in Banzuke predicting, obviously gotta get that Guess the Banzuke win. Gotta get there. We've been so close. I've got so many top 5 finishes at this point. It's
3 of the last 4 in the top 5 that's nuts.
yeah, with a couple additional a few years back. And then I do want to get one where I don't have anybody off by more than a half rank. I think that would be pretty cool as well.
There you
go. Just looking at some of the overall Banzuke stats, not regarding my prediction at all. The biggest jumps up the Banzuke this time are 10 ranks for Ichi Yamamoto, 7 ranks for Atami Fuji, and 6 ranks for Tomokaze and Choda no Umi. And then our biggest drops down the Banzuke are 14 ranks for Haku Oho, 9 ranks for Tamawashi, and 8 ranks for Chiyoshoma. So most of the big movement was at the bottom of the Banzuke and Rikishi that crossed between divisions. So if we kind of just look at exclude the division crossovers and look at just Rikishi who stayed in the makuuchi division, there's not a whole lot of severe movement. Our biggest jumps still Atami Fuji with 7, but then the next biggest jumps up the Banzuke was 4 ranks with Takayasu, Midori Fuji, Hokuseiho, and Miyogiryu,
who all got 10 wins, right? So that they were all under promoted.
Yeah. And then our biggest drops down the Banzuke are still 9 with Tamawashi, but then the next biggest drop was 5 for Oho and 4 for Nishikigi and Ryuden. So this Banzuke was really not very volatile, and most Rikishi are going to be in a very similar range as they were in the last Basho. So this Basho is going to see very similar to the last one in terms of like who's fighting who and all that stuff. Just a couple of different blips, like Tamawashi down at the bottom and Atami Fuji a little bit higher up. Other than that, everybody's basically in the same range.
Yeah. I mean, that doesn't mean it won't be exciting. It just means that we'll be seeing all the same matchups that we saw last time.
Yeah. And I just thought it was interesting, just kind of like how mild the movement was on this Banzuke.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm with you there.
Also, interesting to note, no Rikishi stayed at his exact same rank after a 7-8 record this Basho. It seems like that it's been the first time in a long time that's happened. I don't know the last time it happened, but it feels like it happens at least once a Basho.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got 6 Rikishi that are going to be at their career high rank: Gonoyama, Atami Fuji, Tohakuryu, Chira no Umi, Roga, and Kita no Waka. And then, of course, those 4 Rikishi that are making their Makuuchi debut. So, Jake, need your help, as always, with figuring out our snub of the Banzuke and our luck of the Banzuke winners. So, snub of the Banzuke, we had Asanoyama, who only got a 1 rank promotion after 9 and 6 and was snubbed for the Komusubi rank. We had Gonoyama, 1 rank promotion after a 9 and 6, and we had Onosho, 1 rank promotion after a 9 and 6, and being ranked behind Nishikigi, who he deserved to be ranked 2 ranks ahead of. And then we also had Ryuden with the forced over demotion of 1 extra rank after his 6 and 9 record.
If I were to pick, I would say Asanoyama, and I don't think it's because he necessarily got screwed over the worst, but I think it's the long-term storyline is just one little extra hurdle getting in the way of, you know, his attempt to return to the top. And I hear he's re-aggravated an injury. So
oh really?
Yeah, I didn't read into it too much. I was just scanning through stuff while we were getting ready to record, but cool. I mean, yeah, it's a bummer for people who wanted to see him at his best at the top for his entire peak athleticism, and I feel like just getting snuck out of the top ranks there, just a little bit of insult to injury there. Literally, I suppose.
Yeah. All right, and we'll got to figure out our luck of the Banzuke winner. We have Ura, who got a 3-rank promotion after a 9-6 record, but he made it through the logjam. That's why he's lucky. We have Nishikigi, who went ahead of Onosho, who he deserved to be 2 ranks behind. We have Tsurugisho with the only makuuchi Rikishi to receive an over promotion, rising 3 ranks instead of 1 rank after an 8-7 record. Chura no Umi, who there's some reason I made him a luck of the Banzuke candidate, and Kita no Waka for making up to makuuchi with a record that should have kept him in Juryo.
Do you want my serious answer or sarcastic answer first?
Let's do sarcastic then serious.
My sarcastic answer, the luck of the Banzuke, goes to people who regularly watch Juryo, because now there is a whole bunch of names where they're like, oh yeah, I've been watching this guy for so long that, I know who this guy is. And
hey, that's me.
Yeah, they'll get to rub it in everybody's faces. It'll be great for them and awful for the rest of us. My serious answer, I think Tsurugisho. 3 ranks for an 8-7. Purely, and for no other reason than screw the guys coming up from Juryo.
Just to spite the Juryo.
Absolutely nothing
exactly.
Else. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like 3 ranks for 8-7 is really nothing out of the ordinary. Down in that
you might
range
get one guy here and there getting something like that, sure.
Yeah,
but
down in that range of the Banzuke, it's not crazy to see 4 or 5 ranks for an 8-7 record, just because it's like, well, there's nobody else. But it's more he's the only one to get an over promotion, and the only reason he's getting an over promotion is to stick it to the Juryo guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would be one thing if there was like 8 guys in a row with losing records or something. Oh man, we just gotta move them up there. But instead, it's just like, nah, screw those guys. Put them ahead of them.
And your prediction for what my worst guess would be on the preview episode was that I would get the number of Juryo promotees wrong. And obviously I nailed that dead on with 6 Juryo promotees. So Jake, I hope you feel some level of shame for doubting the number 1 Banzuke guy.
I'm not worthy to be your co-host.
Well, we've known that for quite a while.
You should just replace me with a Google Sheets macro that clicks the button to reveal the names as you go. I don't deserve any sort of trophy.
No, absolutely not. So we're just gonna keep this here for the remainder of the podcast. I feel like I feel like at this point, if you're doing Guess the Banzuke and you're not listening to our prediction episodes and our review episodes, what are you doing? You're missing
trophy?
You're missing value. Yeah, where's your trophy? You're missing valuable insight from the number 1 Banzuke guy who could give you the advice you need to possibly be the next number 1 Banzuke guy.
As if there will be.
Yeah, I'm holding on to that for the rest of my life.
And the second that one of these looks hard, it's like, I quit.
I'll do that thing where I just skip a basho, because you can skip 1 and guess the Banzuke and it doesn't adversely affect your ranking. So I'll just start taking advantage of that system.
I love how the second that you started doing that game officially, you're like, I have this option. I'm not going to do it though.
No, absolutely not. 1, got to provide the content every basho.
Of course.
But 2, I
pay them bills.
I'm too competitive to do that. That feels like gaming the systems. If you genuinely miss one, obviously you genuinely miss one. But it feels like you could take a look at a basho. It's like, oh, I don't know how many Sanyaku Rikshis it's going to be. I'm going to skip this one to preserve my rank. It's like, no, take your lumps, be competitive, play the game.
Finish in the 60s once.
Yeah. Hey, you could finish in the 60s and still be the number 1 Banzuke guy. It's happened to me. It could happen to you too.
I love how that's still like top 3rd, and you look at it like this massive stain on your legacy.
It is finishing in the 60s. God, I'm a top 14 guy. Just look at the last 5 bashos. I'm not a number 1 guy. Never a number 1 guy.
No.
I follow too many rules, and there's too many times where they're inconsistent for me to ever win.
Yeah,
I'd have to predict something random to happen, and there's no way I'm ever going to do that because I can't randomly predict what
Has to
they're
be a
going to
rule.
randomly
Yeah.
predict. Yeah, so
here's to illustrate that point. I was watching Death Note recently, and you know how every single episode of Death Note goes to commercial with some other obscure rule about the Death Note?
yeah.
Every time those pop up, I'm like, Ryan wrote this show. There's
Yeah.
too many rules. Like, oh, well, what about this ridiculously extreme edge case? We can't let that slide in this anime.
Yeah.
Put it on one of the commercial bumpers. We need a rule for this.
No, that's perfect. Yeah.
Ugh.
All right. So that is going to wrap up 1 hour of Ryan gloating about being the number one Banzuke guy. Jake, genuinely, thank you for the trophy. I love it so much. Thanks for doxing me by putting my full name on there.
Yeah. Like I said, though, cheaper than you would expect for this kind of a joke. So it is far from the last trophy that will be distributed by this podcast in some fashion.
Not that I haven't doxed myself already. Everybody who gets a trading card from me knows my full name
as your return address.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, that's a really good point. Never mind.
So if you want to know my full name and address and do something bad with that, sign up for our Patreon and request a trading card.
Probably cheaper than most other methods of identity theft.
I'll do anything to get people to sign up for our Patreon.
Oh man, you'll even send them goat trophies.
Yeah. No, I'm keeping this. This is mine.
Like I said, cheaper than you'd expect. We can get more goat trophies.
Yeah, whenever I drop, I'm gonna need another goat trophy that says number 4 Banzuke guy.
Pretty good Banzuke guy.
Yeah. All right. That's going to wrap up this episode. If you enjoy this podcast, you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, your favorite podcast listening service, or if you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, support us there. We enjoy putting these up on YouTube and coming up with these fun visuals to help out with that. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, search for Grand Sumo Breakdown. We have a blog, grandsumobreakdown.wordpress.com.
Go there. By the time this episode is up, the next American Sumo newsletter will be released on grandsumobreakdown.wordpress.com.
Yes, and I believe contact us in any one of those ways if you would like a physical copy of the American, what is it, the American Sumo?
American Sumo, yep.
I thought so.
Yeah.
I should know for sure. I couldn't remember if it was like the Grand Sumo Breakdown newsletter or the American Sumo.
No, we keep putting off doing like a full episode on what that newsletter is and what it offers, but we got to do that. We got to do that coming up here because it's
not after the next show, because we've got popularity poll. I believe we
do have a bit to do in December.
5th annual popularity poll, and then the award show.
We got pro and amateur award shows now. So we're just booking December right up.
Yep.
Maybe keep an eye out in January when our year-end newsletter comes out. Maybe that's the one that we'll do a big feature podcast episode on to talk about what is contained in there.
Sounds like a good idea to me. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, you can reach us in any one of those other ways, or you can email us at grandsumobreakdown@gmail.com, or send us a voicemail at 805-613-7866. That's 805-613-SUMO. I don't know what else there is left to say. I'm the number one Banzuke guy. Number one Banzuke guy out.
There it is. Oh, you nailed that one.
Thank you for listening to Grand Sumo Breakdown. Until next time,
Throw your salt high
and keep moving forward.